It's quite the find. Hello friends, and welcome back to Crow's Thrifty Finds. My name is Melanie. Today we're going to talk about 10 vintage items, and these 10 vintage items are specifically from the decade known as the 90s that sell well on eBay. So to start off with item number 1, that is going to be these sneakers. They are called soaps, and soap sneakers were something that were popular in the 90s. They were for aggressive walking. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it because they were sneakers, but what they had was this little piece of plastic on the bottom that you could use to grind off certain items. So it was kind of for people that enjoyed skateboarding. I actually had a pair myself. I was not a skateboarder, but I thought these shoes were kind of fun. I used to grind down slides and things back in the day. So if you can track down a pair of these shoes, whether they're new or used, they sell excellent. As you can see, this new pair here sold in the 600s, which is crazy, brand new, and used, you can sell them, depending on the pair, in the 200s. So these are BOLOs, if you're fortunate enough to find them. I look for them all the time. I know I have a pair in my parents' house somewhere and they can't seem to locate them, and it kills me because I'd be more than happy to part with them. But yeah, be on the lookout for soap sneakers. Item number 2 is something that I know I had a lot of in the 90s, stickers. Now, there's so many different kinds of stickers that you can find, but I want to highlight a couple of different kinds of stickers in particular. First off, scratch and sniff stickers. Scratch and sniff stickers, you can see on eBay, they sell individually for $5 each. So you can do the math. If you get a bunch of scratch and sniff stickers, and of course, if they still smell, that's even better. And you can make a lot of money on them, lotting them up. So I would definitely advise for you all to keep on an eye out for stickers. There's other brands as well, like Mrs. Grossman's and Sandy Lion and other types of stickers that if you lot them together, you can do very well also. But the big money, if you want to find the big bolo, you want to look for Lisa Frank stickers. I know I've mentioned Lisa Frank before in my videos, and you can't really not mention her because Lisa Frank stuff sells, and the stickers are no exception to that. So you can see that if you're fortunate enough to find like a book of them, oh boy, you are going to make some money on those. So any kinds of stickers of the 90s, be looking out for them. And, usually you can get those pretty cheap at thrift stores or yard sales. So you will make your money back and then some very easily. So being a child of the 90s, I watched a decent amount of television. And when I was younger, my most favorite thing to come home and watch, we didn't have cable, but fortunately this wasn't on cable. This was the Disney Afternoon. And these folks now are the grown-ups that have money that want to buy nostalgia pieces. So Disney Afternoon collectibles sell very well. And I'll list a couple of the shows that were on there. So there's shows like Chippendales Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, Tailspin, which was my personal favorite. And I want to actually show you all a bolo that's worth a decent amount of money should you locate one. For whatever reason, these big figures sell incredibly well on eBay. So I have seen new ones of this. This is blue. I've seen new blues in their box sell well over $100. And I actually was fortunate enough to buy this off of Facebook Marketplace for $40, which was an unheard of incredible deal. You will not even get one used, especially with his scarf and whatnot, for that price normally. So that you see these things and you grab them, and he's in great condition. So I had to have him. He's not being sold, even though I can make money on him. This is for me. This is my personal one. I'm sorry, no one can have him. However, to me, if I had to judge which Disney Afternoon show is the most collectible. There is a show that was on, and maybe some of you remember it, called Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck sells great on eBay. Lots of different items. You can even find a vintage Darkwing Duck Nintendo game selling in the hundreds and more. And you can find one of these large figures that's Darkwing Duck that sells, as you can see there, in the 200s. There's Darkwing Duck action figure accessories and vehicles that sell in the hundreds. Darkwing Duck plushes usually sell in like the $50, $60 range. Darkwing Duck is something you want to familiarize yourself with for good vintage nostalgia for children of the 90s that want to purchase it now, whether it be for their children or just for themselves. So do be looking for those, because that will help you cash in and make some money. Item number 4, more toys. I do a lot of toys, so you're going to hear about that from me, but street sharks. Street sharks were popular in the 90s, and they sell really, really well in lots. But if you find individual figures, you can usually sell those for good money as well. You can sell those, in the 20s. So if you see a street shark, pick one up. I spotted one over this summer that I got for 50 cents in a box, just one of those little boxes that people have. And I sold it for, I think it was like $23 or $24. It took a little while to sell, so they don't always go right away. But if you've got a really good lot or one of the really, really rare ones, you'll be able to make money on it. Item number 5 is Jnco jeans. That's Jnco jeans. They were very popular in the 90s. They were very, very wide-legged pants. And this catered to a variety of people. A lot of them were skateboarders or ravers, very popular pants. And they had these really interesting stitching of characters and different logos. And they were just really, really large with really, really big pockets. And I loved them personally. I thought they were so cool, and I definitely had a pair or two myself, and I wish I could find them now. But yeah, they were very interesting. And now, as you can see, they sell for really good money if you can find a pair. So I would keep your eyes open when you're out. Item number 6 is boomboxes. Most people had them in the 90s. There's certain styles that are incredibly collectible now, and brand is important and style is important, but there's a search that you can type in that gets you usually the most expensive of the most expensive, and that's if you type in the term ghetto blaster. And these are the ones that people would hold on their shoulders. So these are great, and I think some of these were from the 80s too, but they kind of extended into the 90s. So yeah, it's a thing you want to find and pick up. It's a bolo for sure if you're lucky enough to get one, especially one that works. I was ever so fortunate to get one of these last summer, and they wanted $4.50 for it. They didn't think the cassette deck worked, and that's a common problem to have, is the cassette decks wear out over time, certain parts, but it turns out it was just on pause, and it actually worked flawlessly, and I ended up selling it for $1,000. So it's my highest sale I've ever had. So I hold these stereos near and dear to my heart, and I hope to find another one someday, but they are very hard to come by. But they have a really cool look to them, really cool vintage look. So they're pretty obvious when you see them. You just have to find them. And that's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but if you see one, pick it up. Next item I'm going to talk about are little Tikes chairs. Kind of an unusual item. I actually just learned about these pretty recently in a group that I'm in. And I actually have these chairs in my house. Like, my kids use them to sit in. I actually have one right next to me, so I can show you what I mean. These are kind of large, but you just charge a lot of money for shipping for whatever reason. People really want these shirts. I mean, they're pretty durable. My kids have beat these things up, and they've still got many years, I think, left in them. So if you happen to see those, you know, somebody selling it on Facebook Marketplace or a garage sale, it's a good pickup. And yeah, about $25 to $30 each seems to be the going rate. And again, it depends on the colors. If it's a more rare color, it can be worth more than a less rare color, but they're definitely good to have and good to sell. So be on the lookout for little Tikes chairs. Item number 8 is band shirts. So this one may be kind of obvious to the more seasoned resellers, but band shirts of any kind from the 90s are an extremely good pickup. I'm recording on selfie mode, so unfortunately the letters are backwards, but this is one of my favorite bands from the 90s. This sweatshirt is a Third Eye Blind sweatshirt. Third Eye Blind still has a massive following. There's kind of a new generation that's discovered them. So the Third Eye Blind stuff sells great. Not quite as great as some of the highest grossing t-shirts, which are, you know, your Nirvana shirts, your Tupac shirts, your Alice in Chains shirts. But yeah, music shirts sell amazingly well. This sweatshirt, just to give you some perspective, I've seen this sweatshirt sell around $200, but I'm not giving it up because it holds sentimental value. But you know, when I die someday, I guess my kids can sell it and I won't know because I'm not alive anymore. But for now, it is mine to keep, and it's very cozy, and it has that vintage taper to that. That's a good way to know a vintage sweatshirt is they're all tapered at the bottom. Oh, I see this has deodorant on it. Well, yeah, they're all tapered at the bottom. And also another way you can tell a vintage band shirt is that there's an actual physical tag in the back. So if you have a shirt with a tag on it, that's a good indicator that it's vintage. And of course, vintage is stuff that's 20 years or older, just for you to know in case you didn't. Item number 9. Brick cell phones. These are your, as folks in the 90s would call it, your Zach Morris phones. And we're going to talk more about Zach Morris in a few minutes. But your brick cell phones sell incredibly well on eBay. It's shocking how much these things sell for. But these are those huge, chunky cell phones that came out right when cell phones were in their earliest of days. And it is incredible how much some of them sell for. As you can see, it's just unbelievable. So should you see a brick cell phone, worth looking up. And probably a BOLO. I have never seen one of these in my travels out in the wild, but I'm sure plenty of people have found them, and I would encourage you to look for them as well. Last item is Saved by the Bell dolls specifically. These dolls, whether they're used or new, command some money, and it's one of those things that you might just see them at a garage sale mixed in with an old lot of Barbie dolls. So familiarizing yourself with the characters, if you're a child of the 90s, this will be really easy, but if you're not, it'll be a little harder. But just examining what the characters look like and being familiar with them. New ones command, around $100 each. So if you got a lot of them, oh boy, you're in for some money. But even if you just find them partially dressed or fully dressed, there's money for you. So be on the lookout for Saved by the Bell dolls. And that concludes the list. I hope you all learned something today along with me. The 90s was such a fun decade. I'm so proud to have grown up in that time. And we got some really, really cool stuff from the 90s to collect and sell and make some money on. So again, don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already. And also don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you watching every week. This week I did a midweek video, and maybe every once in a while I'll do that, but I always put videos out at least on Saturdays. So once a week to twice a week, you'll see a video from me. And again, my name is Melanie with Crow's Thrifty Finds. I'll see you next time.